doing what he does best, just capturing the magnificence of this landscape that we're in. And my name's Dylan. It is wonderful having you with us, as always. I was just kind of listening with half an ear that one of our colleagues in the local got a question of how many bird species are there in that area. And, you know, we've got all our lists over here, so I can go through all that kind of stuff with you. But if there's one thing I could ask people to take away from these Wild Earth drives, it would be this. Put aside the notion of lists. Put aside the notion of numbers. Put aside the notion of checklists and getting ticks in a box to say, well, okay, that's what they've got, that kind of thing. These systems are incredibly difficult, but incredibly complex, even at the most basic level. So even if we say, well, okay, there are only 100 species of XYZ over here, it doesn't mean that they are any less important than an area that has 600 species. And if you take Tswalu as an example, I was just looking at a beautiful little butterfly here called an Eller's bar. It's one of the first ones of the season that's coming out now. That's just one of about 76 different species that we have on Tswalu. The entire British Isles has about 55 different species of butterfly. That does not mean that there is any less importance that should be attached to an area the size of the British Isles or their butterflies as opposed to an area like Tswalu. So try break away from this idea of having to have a list all the time.
Well, here we have got a hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamuses, 3 hippopotamuses, and until very recently the one on the right had a terrapin sitting on its head, and that terrapin has now been forced to go for a swim because the hippopotamus shook its great head and the terrapin disappeared. And then also they had 4 oxpeckers sitting on them, but they too have absconded to go and look for some other animal to harass for their blood. Very restful place to be here at the water, especially with the hippos being so restful. They are not always, of course. Sometimes they can be very unrestful if they feel threatened, but these chaps are totally at peace. Ooh. BK, there's also a nice bird at the end of the waterhole there. A grey heron. Can you see it? Well done. There's a grey heron. Pranav, I get the impression that you're asking this question because you know the answer and it's such an amazingly interesting answer, but maybe you don't. We can actually see how hippos mark their territories. If you come back to the hippo here, oh, they're doing a bit of playing now. We'll watch that quickly first, and then I'll show Pranav precisely how they mark their territories. If you go to the green bushes there at the end of the water, straight in front of us, yeah, just at the base of them, Pranav, you'll see that there's a whole lot of dung there, and you'll notice that it's been sprayed up onto the branches of those bushes. Now that is hippo dung, and that's a territorial marking. So what they do is, as they are making their dung, or as they are defecating, they flap their paddle-like tail to and fro, and it sprays the dung all over the place and makes the following sound. So if you ever hear that and you walk in the bush, you know that there's a hippo close by. But you're unlikely to hear it because it's mostly done at night or in the water. So they also do that in the water. And that's a territorial marking.
Well done, James. I don't think I would have attempted to do that sound. Now, why am I out of the vehicle with my shoes off? Don't judge my odd socks. They are odd. I couldn't find a pair. This hole has been dug by an elephant. Now, it's an old one. There's no fresh tracks around, but there's lots of signs of elephant dung. The culprit is obvious. Now, why would an elephant go to the effort of using the trunk, which has way more muscles than the human body? The human body only has a meager 639 to dig, and I'm going to show you exactly why. Now, I'm not an elephant, but I am going to show you what it is these elephants want. So, it's all soft sand for now, and if you just give me... Whew, this is a lot of work. Luckily, the elephants have far more muscles. They can have 150,000 muscle bundles. We got it. We got it, everybody. Water, the liquid of life. Now, I'm not sure if Theo can see into this hole. Can you see the water? Okay, I'm going to try and show you. It's pouring out. How incredible is that? I'm not sure if you can see my hand, but there's water. It's dripping. And it's fresh water from the underground system, the water that nourishes the entire landscape here. This landscape would not survive without this water, and the elephants want it. Oh, it's a huge puddle. And why do they want it? Elephants are actually fussy drinkers. They want the freshest of the cleanest water around. So I am going to put my shoes back on now and probably wash my hands.
Hello and a very warm welcome to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this afternoon we've got Craig, and we're out in a very windy afternoon here in the open grasslands of the far south of the reserve. And as you just saw, we've managed to find a group of white rhinos taking shelter from the wind in a dense thicket. And there they are there. It looks like a mother and her almost grown youngster taking some time out. James, you're asking if there's any grass species that white rhinos have a preference for. James, because white rhinos are bulk grazers, they often will kind of feed on whatever grass is kind of freshest at the time. But if there's a lot of grass that's out and about and it's all pretty fresh, like during the summertime, typically the grass species that are of the best grazing quality, so the highest protein content, those grasses will be preferred. And typically it's things like the panicum family, like Panicum maximum, red oatgrass or Timida triandra. Those are probably the most common ones in this area that are especially good grazing. And it's not just for rhinos, for all the different grazing animals out here, buffalo, and even animals that are mixed feeders like impala. Oh, the little calf just stood up. Just repositioning itself. Looks like it's trying to get more into the shade there. Carl, you're asking how many babies a rhino will have. Well, Carl, at one time it's normally just one. There have been there's a few records of rhinos giving birth to more than one youngster at one time, but like I said, that's very rare. So one calf at a time, and it's normally every kind of 2.5 to 5 years that a white rhino cow will have her calf. And so if she can start breeding at about 5 years or so and live to be about 40, that's potentially a minimum of, if my mathematics is correct, maybe about 7 calves in her lifetime. All the way onto its side. It's too cute. With those long ears. So I was going to say, Carl, so with mom being there, mom being very big and strong and protective, it's got a good chance of surviving. hello to all of our viewers on the internet. Lovely to have you with us. And how special to see these two rhinos lying down. It's not the first time that we've been able to find some rhinos lying down, but it's not often that we get to see them this clearly, just because of the fact that they often lie down in pretty thick bush. And just as we pan around, you see Craig there has spotted another white rhino also sleeping in those guarri thickets. And as we've been sitting here for the last few minutes, we've actually seen, I've counted at least 5 rhinos kind of dotted around in those guarri thickets. It's mainly white rhinos, but a little bit earlier we did catch a glimpse of a black rhino too. I'm really hoping that it steps into a gap through these thickets where we can have a nice look at it. It'll be super special to be able to see the two species in the same frame. And this morning we spoke about the difference between the two species, and I've used the book a couple of times to show you all the differences between the two rhinos, but it would be so nice to have the two species standing next to each other so that we can really get a good appreciation for the size difference and then the anatomy difference. Okay, I'm going to keep quiet. We are about to come out of our ad break, everybody, so stand by. Welcome back, everyone. Myself and Craig are still sitting here with these two white rhinos as they rest, waiting out the wind. And look at how those ears on that rhino on the right, look at how they swivel around all over the place, like long tubes. And the calf's ears are doing it as well. Look at that. Just helping them to maintain their awareness about themselves, excuse me, as they rest. And we were just saying now, we had a quick look around and it seems like there's quite a few rhinos here in the thickets. Douglas, you're asking why rhinos hide from the wind if they've got such a thick skin. Douglas, and to be honest with you, I don't know the exact answer to that. I haven't come across any articles or read anything about that. But what I would surmise is that it's uncomfortable, I mean, with their ears, the sound of the wind constantly blowing in their ears. Being animals that are very reliant on their hearing and on their sense of smell, having that constant disturbance in their ears they can't hear as well, and even the wind blowing different smells all over the place might make them quite nervous. So if they just sit still and they rest in the shelter of a thicket, they'll be able to avoid those two unpleasant things.
You may think we're just staring at a jackalberry, and we are, but there's something on the jackalberry, incredibly camouflaged, and I have not seen one of these in a very long time. The closest cousin of the chameleon, we have here a female tree agama. Isn't that lovely? Can you see it? You see how incredibly camouflaged it is. Now, I think it's female. The males normally have a really bright blue head. It's almost so blue that it doesn't actually quite fit into the landscape out here. And normally they're sunning themselves on the trees, which is exactly what this individual is doing. How cool is this? Now, the tree agama, which is the species that we're looking at, is the largest of all of southern Africa's agama species. They can reach about 40 centimeters in length, and that's very long from nose to tail. And because there's the absence of the blue head, I'm sure this is female. That's so exciting. I haven't seen a tree agama in a really long time. And they're slightly different from other reptiles, such as, skinks or geckos, because they're not able to shed their tails. Some reptiles can let go of their tails if they're threatened, and it's a sort of way of escaping predators. If they feel that someone is on their tail, literally, they'll just cut it off, and it's a fantastic technique to avoid predators, but tree agamas are not able to do it. They're very territorial though, and they can be really aggressive when fighting. They've got sharp claws. That's how I was able to cling onto the sort of bark here of this jackalberry. Is it gone inside? Oh no, it's there. Wow. You see the scales, the body's covered in scales, another feature of being a reptile. And they have actually got quite painful bites. I wouldn't recommend messing with a tree agama. If anybody was thinking of doing that, they can really bite you. And they do have two very sharp fangs inside their mouth. My drive is made. I'm over the moon with this sighting, but I am going to continue bumbling for more.
We had a very exciting sighting over here. It was a dwarf mongoose that has disappeared. Let me go and have a look quickly. I doubt I'm going to see it, but I might just be able to see where it lives. Now, dwarf mongoose like to live on these termite mounds, or in these termite mounds, because they're safe and warm, especially in winter. There, did you see it go? It was waiting up here. So there are lots and lots of little holes in here where the little dwarf mongoose will live. And hello? Hello? They're not going to come out while I'm shouting at them because they will see me as a predator. But a termite mound is the perfect place to live if you need to maintain your temperature balance. Now, for you and I, we do that by wearing clothes and putting on jerseys and taking them off, depending on whether it's hot or cold. We live in relatively warm homes. I mean, I know in most of South Africa in winter our homes are actually pretty cold and not very well equipped. But you know what I mean. Now, for something the size of a mongoose, staying the same temperature or staying the right temperature is difficult, because the smaller you are, the more difficult it is to maintain a constant body temperature. So that little mongoose there is quite clever because it lives in an environment that is very highly insulated. So in that termite mound, you'll probably find that the variation in temperature is not very high at all. I suspect down below there, when they're all huddled together in the winter, it probably doesn't drop below 16 or 17 degrees. And then when it's really, really hot in the summer, it probably doesn't go much above 26 degrees inside there. When the termites are actually resident, it sits at a constant temperature of around about 27 degrees or so, which is just ideal.
So speaking of holes in termite mounds and moving to a hole of a completely different kind, this old growth camel thorn tree that I'm sitting in over here, I wanted to show you something quite interesting here, because you typically think of these trees getting so old, but the question then is, well, what kills a tree? You know, down in the low veld you can look at things and say, well, fires, elephants, whatever. There's a whole range of things, and a lot of these trees are also designed not to get killed by those things. So what is it that actually makes a tree die eventually? And there are a lot of factors. One of the really, really interesting things here, and I just wanted to point out to you, you'll notice this tree has got a hollow going all the way from here and then coming all the way down and it disappears way inside over here. Okay, all inside there. So these actually form really, really good little shelters for things like slender mongoose and a whole range of species, monitor lizards, snakes, scorpions, whatever. But what I wanted to actually point out here is these dark marks. It's actually these burn marks inside over here, actually running down. And what happens is, very, very typically, this actually links to a really cool bird out here. Two of them, cardinal woodpeckers and golden-tailed woodpeckers. And any branch or fault on a tree where there's something that's been broken off, even by an animal, is exposed. And that means that tree is at risk at that point. Now, those broken off parts are where like wood borers and things can actually get in as they start drying out. And what that means is they fall prey to things like woodpeckers, because woodpeckers have got this like really awesome barbed tongue that they can get there, get them out. But because you've got these little dead patches of wood, okay, you often get fungus that attacks wood growing on those parts. So then you get the little woodpecker. Now he's hungry, so he's looking for these little caterpillars, so he goes and starts pecking there, catches them, but then he also gets these spores from the fungus on his beak. And what does he do? He goes to the next tree. And all that does is keep on spreading and spreading and spreading these spores all over the place. And that means you can get these incredible rot features taking place on these really old growth trees. And that in itself won't necessarily kill the tree, but it leads on to something else. So Cheetah Charmer just asked, what are the things that kill trees? Bite the bullet. I'm getting there in a long-winded way. So what happens so it's not the woodpecker that's killing the tree, it's not the wood borer that's killing the tree, it's not that initial little bit of damage by an animal, but what that does, it can actually, once you start getting a hollow in a camel thorn tree like this, if you do get fires, so if you had a number of years of successive good rainfall seasons and you can get actually quite a build-up of vegetation around the tree like grass matter, and that is enough to actually ignite the trunk, and you'll see the trunk is nice and thick and corky, so it's fairly fire resistant. But if the fire is hot enough and it starts burning inside these hollows, it actually creates a chimney on the inside of the tree. And a tree this size, this age, this is probably 200 years old, 250, 300 years old, we're not sure, but a tree like this will go up literally in a matter of minutes. And so that's just one example of how a woodpecker can actually play an inadvertent role in the demise of a tree ultimately. There are other species, things like porcupines are well known as what we call keystone species, and woodpeckers, there's good studies done in the United States on woodpeckers as keystone species on old growth forests. And porcupines can do that as well by ring barking trees at the bottom. That doesn't kill the tree because they're only ring bark patches, but it allows fire to access the tree, and that's what will kill them. So cool, so cool.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinda. A third rhino has just entered the scene. Everyone, look on the far right. You can just see its big butt facing towards us. And let's see what it does. If it maybe goes towards the mother and her youngster. If it does, then... Oh, there's another one! 4 rhinos! There's rhinos just popping out of the bushes everywhere. It looks like 2 mothers and their sub-adult calves. All coming together for the shelter of these guarri thickets. Enlightened, you're asking when young rhinos normally leave their mothers. Enlightened, it's normally when they are about 2 to 2.5 years old is when their mother will start to push them away. So these 2 youngsters actually look like they're getting to that stage in life where their mothers are going to start pushing them away. They'll be having their new calves possibly soon, and they'll want to then devote their full time to their new youngsters. When that happens, they'll often go and try and find another rhino cow that has a similarly aged calf, and they'll kind of follow them around for safety in numbers and for a bit of company. Oh, but that was so cool. Rhinos just popping out of the bushes everywhere. And I think now with the temperature slowly starting to drop, the wind dropping too, they're going to start getting active and starting to feed. Lisa, you say you love these rhinos? I do too, Lisa. And welcome again to our internet audience. How cool is that to see those other two rhinos come into frame? And like I said, I'm pretty sure that they're going to start, or all of them are going to start getting up pretty soon. Starting to feed, and often at this time of year, late in the afternoon like this is when rhinos start to move towards water. And there's not very much water around at the moment, so they're going to have to go to kind of within this area. There's basically only 2 water points that are within about a 5-kilometer radius of them. And they'll probably want to head to either of those 2 spots to go and drink. But it seems like those 2 in the middle are still fast asleep. Look on the left-hand side of the screen, that little calf is, well, not so little calf, but the youngster is facing its mother. Looked like there was going to be like a little touching of... There's a 5th rhino! There's a 5th rhino in the shot! White rhinos just appearing from the guarri thickets. Amazing, we've been sitting here for the better part of half an hour, and just as we sit here we just keep seeing more and more rhinos. There's so many of them that are all taking advantage of the shelter that these bushes provide. And I wonder if they're just waiting for the wind to die down. Okay, we are about to come out of our ad break with SABC, everyone, so I'm going to keep quiet for a bit. Welcome back to Anbjorn Pinder. While you were gone, a 5th rhino has come out of the bush and joined this group, and it's with the rhinos on the left-hand side of the screen. You can just see the ear of one on the far left, and then those 2 standing up there, and then of course the original 2 rhino lying down. And just before the ad break, I spoke a bit about how a rhino that gets pushed away from its mother when she's going to get ready to start having her next calf will go and join up with another rhino cow and her calf, and that seems to be the case with the 3 rhinos standing up on the left-hand side of the screen there. It looks like a mother and her youngster, and then a satellite calf. Susie, you're asking if rhinos aren't supposed to be solitary animals. Susie, with these rhinos, so these are white rhinos, and they are known for being quite gregarious, for moving around in small groups. Especially if it's mothers with youngsters, where, well, in the scenario where you do see a rhino alone, or a white rhino alone, it's normally a territorial bull, and he'll be alone because he's got to go and mark his territory, keep other bulls out of his territory, and kind of, so mark his territory basically and patrol. With black rhinos, Susie, they are often seen either alone or with a calf. But even then, recent research and studies and new technology is helping us to find that black rhino can also be quite sociable, especially around waterholes at night. There's some fantastic video footage of black rhinos congregating around water. And also in the same thing with the black rhino, Susie, also a lone rhino is normally a territorial bull. Perhaps even a cow that's about to give birth to her new baby. She might also go and isolate herself from other rhinos. Oh, there you go, the big female standing up. Look at how big she is. She's yawning! Oh my word! I've never seen a rhino do that, everybody. That was ridiculous. Now it's like she's licking her chops. I wish the wind wasn't blowing so hard and we were closer to her so we could hear the sound of her lips smacking together. That was too special. I'm pretty sure, well, let's see if that little one stands up now too. There we go. He's lifted his head. Looking around. Look at that very square mouth of his. Perfect for cropping up grass. And also for making lip smacking sounds. But no, he's put his head back down. One of the other sub-adults is about to move into shot there. Ooh, no, gone behind a bush. But I was just saying a little bit earlier that I think now with the sun going down, this wind is probably going to start dying down too. And this is the time of day when white rhinos will often go and drink water, start moving towards water to go and drink. And if it's been quite hot or the sun's been very intense, they'll even go and mud wallow. And I think that that's what these rhinos are going to do. Debbie, you say you love the rhino's Shrek-like ears. They do look a bit like Shrek's ears, hey? But I don't know, I think they're much more endearing with their little pointed tips and the little tufts of hair on the end. Amazing how they can swivel around like that. Watch how she's twisting those ears in all different directions. Listening towards us, listening over her shoulder. And you can just see the face of a rhino also on the left-hand side of the screen, looking towards the right. I feel like the longer we sit here, the more rhinos just seem to materialize out of the thickets. What a special sighting this has been.
Hearing that Dylan climbed a tree reminded me that I too quite like to climb trees, especially when there is a goal at the end of climbing the tree, and so it is that I came up this dead leadwood tree in search of an unusually early flowering leopard orchid. So that's what we're looking at, a leopard orchid, and I've managed to pick some flowers, and they have a glorious smell. They smell like jasmine with a vague hint of dust. That makes sense? Jasmine with a vague hint of dust. Very sweet, lovely smelling flowers. And normally you'd expect this plant to only flower around December time, but for some reason this particular example has decided that it would like to flower early. Some of them October, November, but this chap started in July, which is really unusual. And if you look carefully at these flowers, you will see that they are plain yellow. Now there are two species of orchids that we get here, Ancelia gigantica and Ancelia africana, and one of them has got the brown spots and the other, and I think this is africana, does not have the brown spots. So this one is just plain beautiful pale yellow, blowing in a very harsh now northwest wind. Absolutely magnificent. And for those of you who haven't seen this plant before, it is not a parasite. It does not harm the tree on which it lives. I mean, this particular tree has been dead for a very long time. And while this orchid is old, I suspect it was here long after the tree died. And it's just using the tree as a kind of support, like a home. And that's called an epiphyte. There's one other interesting thing about it, and that is that if you take the canes, so we've got the flowers, which I'm going to now drop and then pick up later, and the canes are what the leaves grow on the end of. And there's a lovely old legend that goes, if you break them like this and you chew them by the light of the full moon and then spit them out saying the name of the one you love, they are disgusting. Oh, that's horrible. She will immediately start thinking of you. I used to say the name of Scarlett Johansson. Now I just say the name of my wife. Horrid. Right. That's all I have to say about this. So I think it's probably time that you went to have a look at something else, because otherwise I'm going to fall out of this tree and make a spectacle of myself.
Welcome back, everyone. We're still here with these white rhinos, and have a look now. They've all stood up and they've slowly started to move in a northwesterly direction. Like we said, there's not too much water around here, but that is the direction that one of the closest water holes is. And I think they're going to slowly start to make their way down there for a drink. But good grief, like I said earlier, there's just rhinos popping out of these gori bushes, left, right and centre. And a little earlier we even had a glimpse of a black rhino. And that's why myself and Craig have been hanging around here for so long. Obviously also just to see these beautiful white rhinos, but it would be really special to see a black rhino too in amongst these white rhinos, all taking advantage of the gori bushes for some shelter. And amazing now that they're starting to melt into those bushes, how such a big animal can disappear. Look at that. If they weren't moving, if they were standing still, if they were partially concealed by the bush, you'd never know they were there. Angie, you're asking quite an interesting question. You're asking if we ever collar rhinos like we do with elephants. So Angie, yes, we do collar rhinos. Of course, I'm sure you've heard about the poaching crisis in South Africa with rhino poaching, and so some of our rhinos have been collared before, just to keep an eye on them. Also, if we're going to, as part of a conservation kind of cooperation with other reserves, we're going to maybe send other rhinos out towards them. We'll collar the rhinos that we have specifically chosen to send so we can find them, in order to capture them and then relocate them. But Angie, they don't get collars around their necks like elephants do. They'll get a collar around their foot. So almost like one of those, I don't know what the correct term is, but the devices that you put around prisoners' ankles to keep track of where they're going. If they're on parole, it looks a bit like that. It's just the way, it's just the most efficient way for a rhino to wear a collar, the least intrusive way for a rhino to wear a collar. Oh, we've just been so spoilt with these rhinos. Hello again, internet audience. Lovely to have you with us. So we're all scratching our heads trying to remember what the name of that device is. And if any of you do know, please do comment and send it through to us. Rebecca is apparently also asking everyone in Final Control if anyone knows what the name of that device is. Oh, and dare I say it, but it feels like the wind is slowing down just a little bit. As we get our last little bit of a view of a rhino. Oh, apparently it's called an ankle monitor. Well, that's a very appropriate name for it. Yeah, and that's exactly what a rhino will get for a radio collar. Will be a little ankle monitor kind of bracelet around the foot, or around the just above the joint above the foot. Very unintrusive for the rhino. Also difficult to see from a game viewer. So if we are driving around and we're looking at a group of rhinos, it's often quite difficult to see if the rhino is wearing that ankle monitor, and so it's kind of also an aesthetically appealing, if you will.
So our plan this afternoon for David and myself is we're going to be covering these big grassland areas that you're seeing out here as well, and on the hopes of finding not just an aardvark but an aardwolf. These animals can be incredibly challenging to find. They're not large, they're very, very well camouflaged, and their habit of feeding on a very small species of insect called the Trinovatermes, which inhabits these densely grassed areas, just makes it that much more challenging to find them. But we're going to give it our full best, and hopefully, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have asked, can we please show an aardwolf? Davy and I are pulling out all the stops, I promise you, and we're not going to stop until we find one. So the best thing that we can do is use these high vantage points here at the moment for scanning. Angie's just said, wow, this area looks so dry. Angie, you are spot on. This area is almost as dry as it gets. Our crunch time here, though, in terms of soil moisture content and air humidity, is going to be end of October, beginning of November, if the rains haven't come yet by that time. And we can sometimes get rains right at the end of December even, the first rains, but typically in November. But at the end of October, beginning of November, there often isn't a drop of rain in sight, and then this environment gets incredibly harsh, incredibly challenging for animals to survive in it. But that is what makes it so exciting to be out here, to see what these animals do, how they survive, the challenges that they face. It's all very well sitting in a nice green wonderland of plenty to eat and everyone lives happily ever after, you know, that kind of like little fairy tale there. But out here, fairy tales don't exist, and you can ask the shelduck family that, you can ask the meerkat family that, you can ask the dove family that. We know this very, very well. But that being said, exploring these environments and trying to figure out how they work and looking for these elusive animals like aardwolf and aardvark and pangolin and African wildcats and goshawk nest, that's what makes it so exciting.
Impala are one of the animals that you see here, but I want to show you something quite unique. We have this huge bachelor herd. I see all the boys are friends again. You got him, Theo. At 12 o'clock, we've got a male who is he's quite an older male, and he is completely missing his horn. Look, he's only got one horn. He's left one. Now, he's a much older male. How do I know that? Because his horns are much longer and they've got twists. You can see just on the right here, there's a younger boy. There we go. He's having a little scratchy of his backside. That's a younger boy. And then if you look at the one next to him, that's an older boy. You can see completely different shaped horns and different sizes. So that poor ram has somehow lost a horn, and the horns are fundamentally bone. They're just another bone attached to the skull that continue growing. And unlike deers, they cannot regrow them. They cannot shed and regrow their horns like deers can do with their antlers. So this poor boy will never regrow that right horn. He must feel very lopsided. They're actually very heavy because they are bone and they're wrapped in layer and layer of keratin. Keratine's a protein and it's one of the strongest sort of materials in the animal kingdom. It's in our fingernails, our hairs, bird's feather, tortoise shell, and the layer upon layer are wrapped around the bones of the impala horns, and they're ridged. I wonder if we can get a closer look of a nice, oh, this one's stationary because it's doing the toilet. We just go closer to the horns so you can see that they're completely ridged. And this is for when they're interlocking with one another, when they're fighting. Because the rams are not always friends. It's a very friendly scene in front of us right now, but when it's time to fight for the ladies, they really will fight. And their horns are lyre shape, which means they're going to lock with one another when they're fighting to avoid injury. male impalas don't normally fight to the death, but they can. Lovely, I'm actually not too sure about impala milk teeth. I don't think so, but I'm actually not sure. They've got very specialized teeth. And why is that? Is because they're meticulous groomers and they all help each other groom, the males and the females. This is called allo grooming. So they have really, really unique teeth that actually open when they're sort of not fixed in place like ours. They've got a split and they'll actually splay open to act like a comb so that the teeth can pass through the impala's coat and completely, well, hook off dirt and parasites and all lovely things that are on their skin. So there's teeth that are essentially modified, but I'm really not sure about the milk teeth. I'm afraid I will have to check that out for you. But they're out in the open on a windy day, hiding from the predators. In case the predators are utilizing the wind to sort of camouflage themselves. So our drive will continue, and it continues on the internet, so just search for Wild Earth and you will be able to view us. But that's it for now. Please do join us tomorrow, and thank you for jumping on board. It was a pleasure to have you. Goodbye for now. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your live sunset safari of today. We are back with our most loyal, fantastic internet viewers, and my name is Lauren. I do have Theo on camera today, and we are just admiring this herd of impala. It's a really, really large herd, bachelor herd, full of males who are pretending to be friends, but I'm not entirely sure that they are. There's a little bit of tension between some of them, some headbutts, but it's a windy day here in Djuma, and that's probably why they're slightly nervous. So on this windy day, we want you to talk to us. It's your live interactive safari, so send in your questions and your comments or anything else that you may wish to say to us. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or @FC on the YouTube chat stream and Twitch. There's an email address for kids because kids are just the best, and we also want to hear from you. And that address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Spas, good to hear from you. I think this ram has survived for, oh, there he is. Theo, he's right there. Maybe 11:30 o'clock. I'll point him out. I think he's survived for quite a while without this horn, believe it or not. He's a much older ram, and I really don't think it'll affect him. It seems to have snapped right off. Can you see that? Now, he may feel slightly lopsided, or I would definitely feel very unbalanced. And as a Libra, I couldn't handle that, but I think he'll survive. He may not be able to always win a fight against another more sort of larger, dominant ram, but I think he's absolutely thriving. He's very healthy, and he still does have one horn, which counts for something. But believe it or not, Spas, they've actually recorded quite recently down near Londolozi, a ewe, a female that has horns. They don't quite understand why or how or what's happened. Is it a genetic mutation? But there's females recorded with horns. Can you believe it? So I'm going to sit here a little bit longer and watch this bachelor herd feed.
So speaking of impala with one horn, I think it was, we have found a unicorn, the real McCoy. There we go. This is a very old bull, and I wouldn't be able to tell you the exact age. They can get 10, 11, 12 years old, but the thing is, you don't know, in these systems where they are fighting an incredible amount, there's a lot of wear and tear on these bulls, and you can actually see his flanks are starting to stare. Obviously the broken horn is like a dead giveaway that he's been through a lot of fights. There's actually a scar on that top right shoulder over there. So this old boy, he's done, he's around. So I'm just going to go forward a little bit more for you. And it's almost time for him to go to the happy feeding grounds, I guess. Lions, I think, go to what? Happy hunting grounds. These guys probably go to like happy grazing grounds. But for those of you who don't know the species, it is an oryx, also called a gemsbok. Let me just go forward your fraction. He's really like playing hard to get you. You got him there, David? There you go. So you'll often see younger bulls, bulls in their absolute prime, also with broken horns. They can survive these kind of injuries, if the horns don't get infected. We showed you that gemsbok, what was it, a gemsbok? Yeah, gemsbok horn the other day. And you can actually see how it's actually bone right inside there. So it's this core of bone just surrounded by the sheath of keratin. If that gets broken, particularly if there's a lot of pressure on it, it can actually fracture into the skull, and then you can get very, very severe infections on that. But these animals are tough as nails. I mean, it's not like they go out and they get a stab wound from another gemsbok and they kill over. I mean, they're very tough. I saw a gemsbok the other day. I kid you not. It had about a foot-long piece of horn sticking out its shoulder, like 90 degrees. Mikey has asked, what is the origin of the name gemsbok as opposed to oryx? That's a very, very good question. I'll have to check that up for you. A bok in Afrikaans is actually, people say it's a buck. A bok is actually not a bok, it's a goat. Traditionally in Afrikaans, you see, if you talk about bokke, you're talking about goats, not a buck. So we just make the direct translation. So that's the buck part there, or the gemsbok part. The gems, yeah, I'll have to check that up. It's an interesting one because there's actually a lot of things that are named even after the gemsbok, like gemsbok cucumber, gemsbok komkommer. Let me check. That's a very, very nice question. Thank you. I love questions like that. It's just really, really good. And often it's sometimes the most obvious things that you haven't even bothered looking up. Paulavi has just asked the question, if the horn is broken off, is there a chance of infection? Absolutely. Anything out here can get infected, and yet this is going to be quite gruesome what I'm telling you now, but it is remarkable what these animals can survive. We actually found a gemsbok once. It was still alive. I have no idea what happened to it. Both of the horns had been broken off, and when they were broken off, it had taken that whole top piece of the skull off with it at the same time. It was a horrendous injury. The animal was still walking around feeding. It is amazing. I mentioned now I got a gemsbok bull. Literally, it had a foot-long piece of another gemsbok's horn embedded in its shoulder, but at 90 degrees. It wasn't like it had wedged in under the skin and it was flopping over there. It was inside at 90 degrees. That animal was walking around with the herd feeding, and it didn't even seem like it was limping or suffering anything. these animals are incredibly tough, and there are just so many cases out there, not just with antelope, but with predators, elephants, you name it. There is out in the open there now, that survive the most incredible injuries. It's, now we get a little scratch on your thumb and you race off to hospital to have it stitched up. It's really not necessary. I'm speaking for myself, of course. Go to the hospital if you feel it's important, if you cut your finger. Let me not stop you. But it's true. You're so used to pumping yourself full of like antibiotics, and we just keep like taking crazy medicines. And there's so many studies, in fact, looking at freshwater lakes in a number of different places, and see the amount of human medicines in water. It'll blow your mind. It's often better just to take the knock and have a cute little scar that you can tell people about. You were attacked by a crocodile or a shark or whatever you felt like making it up, as opposed to having all those really fancy stitches done. But yes, that is a gemsbok. I'm going to find out exactly what the origin of that name is. And feel free, if anyone knows, please don't be shy, chip in. I know there's people out there that know what it is. Don't hold that knowledge to yourself.
Poor little gemsbok that doesn't have a horn. I suppose it's probably not that inconvenient when both of them face the same way anyway. We've got a giraffe doing his best to pretend to be a tambuti tree over here. He's doing a pretty good job, I think. Now, yet again, as we are doing our informal checking of the information we gleaned about the darkness of giraffes, here is a giraffe that is dark, and lo and behold, he's on his own. Which is what we would predict. Oh, and there's an oxpecker. So just in case you missed it, just a very quick summary. The thinking is that giraffes that are darker are more dominant. They're not entirely sure of the mechanism by which that happens. They think it's probably an increased testosterone level. And so you'll find dark ones on their own moving between groups, and lighter ones being in groups. And this bull is on his own. He's looking quite, surprised that we're here. Hello. Yes, it's you. Giraffe absolutely have natural predators. Lions eat giraffes with a relatively high frequency. A great big clan of hyenas would also eat a giraffe. And so you wouldn't be unusual, especially in a place like the Mara, to find an enormous clan of hyenas taking a giraffe. Do you see the saliva coming out of its mouth? It is gobbing. That is disgusting. Disgusting but strangely appealing at the same time. At a distance. Wow. You're dribbling. You're leaking. That is some stringy saliva, that. Spider giraffe. Spider giraffe does what spider giraffe does. Spider giraffe. I mean, there's masses of it. It looks just like silk. Wow. I hope it's not spitting at us. Tell me if it hits you, BK. If you suddenly feel a sort of string of moisture slap across your forehead. You'll know you've been spat at by a giraffe. Just a more or less constant stream coming out of his mouth. That's not a string hanging there, that is a stream. Well, the oxpecker pecks away at the little wound surrounding what some people term the median horn. And other people just call a bump. Ginger, I suppose in theory, yes, a large snake probably could kill a giraffe. It probably actually wouldn't have to be that large. I heard a story from somebody the other day about a rhino that was killed by a snake. And in fact, I think it was one of the Pinder guys, wasn't it? I think he may have even told it live, where a puff adder bit a black rhino, and the black rhino died not of necessarily from the venom, but of the septicemia that set in. So in theory, yes, something like a giraffe could be killed by a snake. I think it's probably too big for a single mamba bite to kill it. So even if a black mamba was to bite it on the leg as it walked by, assuming it could get into the bloodstream, and it would really struggle with the giraffe because the base of the legs actually have very little flesh on them at all. It's basically a skin and bone and this kind of pressure bandage type of sheath. So I'm going to say possibly, but very unlikely. Nice gentle breeze rattling the leaves around our heads. Spider giraffe has ceased spitting at us. I was rather hoping he was going to look towards the leopard and alert us to its presence by going, "Oh, there's a leopard." It's actually quite a nice picture of the giraffe there in amongst the greenery. And what I think he's been feeding on is the little flowers on the tamboti tree. The little red flowers. Reddish flowers.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome aboard. We are so excited today to be watching this leopard in this tree up here in this marula. How beautiful is that leopard? So I'm very excited, everyone, because it's now time for your live safari through the African bush. Good afternoon. It's so amazing to have found a leopard today, one that is sitting on top of this marula tree here with the... Bex, am I still on solo?
So we're just aiming along looking for Aardwolf and Aardvark. No joy yet, but the temperature that we're encountering now is a lot cooler than it was an hour ago when we started, an hour and a half ago when we started. So the odds are now picking up in our favor. And when we started our drive, I actually wanted to start in the direction where we're going now. I wanted to start there and work our way back this way. To have the sunlight behind us, it just makes it easier to see things. But the wind is actually pushing in from that thing. And with things like Aardvark and Aardwolf, their sense of smell is so acute. And they are cute as well. And their sense of hearing is brilliant. So I'd rather cut our losses on the light and rather work with the wind. It'll just, I think, give us a higher chance of finding one of them rather than just using light as the thing that I want to go on. So always remember, wind is a big friend if you're looking for these kind of things. But we are literally, oh yeah, something I want to show you. Okay, it's not new, unfortunately, and it's not the two birds that we're looking for. But inside the top of this tree over here, see that little pile of twigs there? Okay, damn it. It's nothing that I thought it was. Okay, that was such a blunder. That was a schoolboy error, guys. Anyway, you see that cluster at the top there? I thought it was a goshawk's nest. That location is perfect for a goshawk's nest. That's what I thought it was, but unfortunately all it is it's one of these ones. It's this bush, a bush like this called the June, that's actually blown right into the top of that tree there. Yeah. Let that be a lesson, folks. No, anyway, such is life. So, yeah, anyway, so I will find a goshawk nest, don't worry. It'll just take time. I'll find anything you want, as long as it occurs here. Except a snake weasel. I'd like to see a snake weasel. You remember the old snake weasel saga, folks? This mythological creature, they actually do occur, yeah. But one day when I'm big, I'll find a snake weasel. But only for, yeah. But it's great to be out here, eh? Yes, it's so exciting, even if we don't see anything. And you're always seeing something. Yeah, there's another one in the tree there. I wonder what's going on here. Okay. But so back to the Aardwolf. The thing with we mentioned it briefly the other day. The thing with the Aardwolf compared to the Aardvark, they're both eating termites. So we say, yeah, they're eating termites, but they're eating completely different species of termites. The ones that Aardwolf are eating are these tiny little things. So they're having to eat 200, 300, 400,000 of these termites a night, or let's say a day. So over a 24-hour period, that's what they got to eat. Whereas Aardvark, for an animal that weighs 30, 40, 50 kilograms sometimes, they're only eating 50,000 a night. You know, so there's a huge difference in it, but that's because that prey item that they're eating, the termite species, is so different. The ones that the Aardvark are eating are nice and chunky termites, a lot of moisture, a lot of nutrients, which is what they need. Whereas Aardwolf are going for these minuscule, what we call snouted. If we see snouted termites, I want to show you, because they are the cutest termites that you could ever hope to see. And they, as the name implies, they've got this beautiful little snouted face. The soldiers have got this little pointed face, and they actually, that's what they spray this acid mix, and actually that's what they use for the colony defense, and that substance that they give out is actually the reason why an Aardwolf goes to a patch. And you would think, well, if you've got to eat so much, why don't you just spend the whole night there at a colony and just keep licking and eating right there? After a while, it doesn't get to taste so good. Those turpentines in there, and the acid in there really starts putting them off. It's not good for the digestion, so then they'll just start moving on to other colonies. But it's all very cool, all very interesting.
Good afternoon and welcome to and Beyond Ngala. We are looking at a wildebeest this afternoon. A single wildebeest, all on his own, right in the middle of a very, very large open space. And it is a male wildebeest. Now, myself, I am Yapi, and behind the camera we have Gert. And we came to the last position where we did have the lions this morning. There was no sign of them. I think they picked up and they moved with this wind. It cooled down quite a bit. And we have, at the moment, we're looking at that wildebeest over there. So, if you look carefully, he's not moving at all. Now, over this open space, the wind's a little bit stronger. And I think that's why he's laying down. You'll see his mouth's moving as well. He looks like he's grooming himself as well. The tail's going with a little bit of dust that it picks up. And you can see the dust is blowing away from him now. That's a clear indication of which side this wind is coming from. So, as this guy is looking into the wind, maybe he knew about the lions in the area this morning. That way he'll be able to smell whatever's coming his way, but he'll also be able to see whatever's moving that way. Kayla, why is this wildebeest alone? It is because he's a male. In this particular part, we find that the male wildebeest, big male wildebeest, they keep a small patch of earth or grass in this particular area that's kind of like a territorial patch. So he'll stay here, and in this particular part on Ngala we have water almost all year round. Especially this year we still have a little bit of water, not too far, within a couple of kilometers from where he is. So he's got everything he needs right here. There's still lots of grass, so lots of food, water not too far. And because this is a prime spot for summertime when he'll be mating or looking to mate, and then the wildebeest females will all make their way into this area. The herds will move here because they're coming here to come and feed. And for this guy, it's well worth it to keep this spot. If he doesn't, if he moves off, then there's a good chance that another guy might come in and actually take over. Now you can see at the moment the fact that his lips and his jaw is moving, that is because he is a ruminant and he's busy chewing the cud. So he's regurgitated all the food this morning when it was a little bit cooler before it got hot. Whoa! There's a hyena that just came in hot from the right. I am actually stunned. That is one of the most random things ever. Now I'm not sure exactly where he's on his way to, or she. It looks like it slowed down a little bit. But I think I can hear impalas. It might be impalas rutting that way, and maybe that's what it's attracted that hyena at high speed.
It's a pig, it's a pig, it's a pig, it's a warthog. Guys, we have a warthog, Okay, that is strike two for me this afternoon, in one afternoon. We actually called this in, we thought it was, I'm not going to bring David down to my dismal level here, folks. I saw it at that angle, and even through binoculars, I thought it was an aardvark. Well, at least there's a vark in the name. Okay? Okay, well that's strike 2. So I got the nest wrong, and I mixed up an aardvark and a warthog. I think I need to retire. All right, well, there's a warthog. For those of you who haven't seen a warthog, it's a long-range warthog. Oh, there are 2. Look, it's multiplied. It's amazing. If you look at them long enough, they just start breeding in front of your eyes. No, yeah, so anyway, I got that completely wrong. But I did think it was an aardvark, so... So I hope we didn't come away from like one of our other guides was like an amazing sighting for our warthog sighting. Anyway, but at least I can spot stuff at a distance. I might not know what it is, but at least I can see stuff. So it's not all bad. Just give me some time, folks. But that's actually a nice thing that you can actually see that there are warthogs in this arid environment. Ooh, Samantha's asked a really, really good question there. And it's the second time today that someone has asked me about leopards hunting. The question that Samantha's asked, can a warthog outrun a leopard? Okay, well, leopards don't typically chase anything for long distances. I mean, I've seen lots of leopard hunts. My colleagues probably seen a million hunts more than I have on leopard. They are stalking predators, they ambush predators. They want to get the closer leopard can get to its prey without being seen, the better for the leopard. I've literally watched a impala female in a herd, she was a lead one on a herd, walk on top of a leopard. That thing was lying flat in long grass, and that leopard caught it. So a leopard will always try to get as close as it can. So it's not going to be doing any long sprints. If that leopard can't get super close to that pig, it's not going to go for it. So, and in a flat race, if you had them side by side, a leopard would win if it had it over a short. Okay. Yeah.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So, after we were taken completely back by that hyena that just burst into the scene, and I can still hear some impalas or they're not alarming, they're actually rutting. So they're doing the same call they would do during the rut season. And there are some that believe that there's actually like a smaller second rut this time of the year in this particular area. And now I think with that also alerted this wildebeest to get up. You can see he's standing with his back towards the wind now. So any scent that comes from that side, he'll pick up on. He's still chewing his cud, or the regurgitated grass that he ate earlier. But he's having a look now. I think he's looking in the direction more or less of where the hyena came from. And this is for Ngala, this is a pretty open area. So he's probably looking to see if there's any other wildebeest around or any other animals to make sure that there's no danger. I'm sure the lions in the area this morning, he would have heard them calling, so most animals in this area would be aware that there are lions around. So, besides this being his spot that he would come back to, like when the wind's blowing and there's not much else to do, it's a little bit cold, he would lay down, reserve his energy. It's also, in a big part, during the middle of the day, they'd lay down and chewing that food or re-chewing that food helps them with their digestion process. So like I said earlier, it's like a cow, it's got a 4-chambered stomach. And often wildebeest late afternoon, about this time, and I think that's exactly what we're starting to see now. There's a little bit of a scratch going on. He's been laying down in the dust. So he needs to scratch for whatever parasites he might have picked up or whatever irritation he might have picked up. And now he's going to start to feed. And that's probably what he'll do for the rest of the afternoon, until such time that the sun starts to get low. Tammy, that's a very good question. He does look vulnerable. The fact that he's on his own, I suppose, puts him in a vulnerable situation, for sure. And I always think about it this way. So there are debates, some reckon that their eyesight aren't too great. I think it's much better than people often give them credit for. But I think he's also got an excellent sense of hearing and an excellent sense of smell. And the fact that he's standing with his back towards where the wind's coming from, he'll be able to pick up on anything that might be dangerous to him from that side. And then the other way, sun's also to his back, so the sun's shining onto the area that he's looking at. And he'll be able to see maybe a reflection of a coat of a short-furred animal, something like a lion walking. But he certainly is. He doesn't have the safety of the herd with him. But I think about it this way. So this wildebeest, in this area, he knows that there's predators, large predators that would do anything to try and get at a large prey species like him. So he's been in this area for a long time probably. He looks like a mature, strong bull. And I'm pretty sure he knows exactly how to thwart a predator attack. He's more than likely had more than one attempt on his life before. And if anything, I think he's actually a bit of an expert at it. He probably stands a better chance of escaping any attack in this open space than the predator stands to actually be successful. HD, he does look very cool and calm, I agree. He doesn't seem to worry too much. Besides a little bit of an itch he's got, the flies bothering him. He's even got a casual step as he's moving. A lone wildebeest bull. And that's also an open patch there. He might just stand. It's a little bit of an elevation. Looks like an eroded termite mound. So it gives a much better view of the area.
Hi everyone, it's really me this time. I just want to apologize about earlier. We were doing a private rehearsal that was not supposed to go live. There was a little whoopsie, so I'm not crazy, I promise. I wish there was a leopard in that tree, but sadly there was no leopard in the tree. But I was trying to will one into existence. So you got a little bit of a sneak peek at our rehearsal. But I am looking for a leopard, genuinely. So yes, everyone, you just use your imagination. There could have been a leopard. Theo was imagining a leopard. But I am looking for one. It's been a few days now, and there's really not been many signs of leopards to follow up in. So I just popped into the west quickly to see if, well, the usual suspects from the west. But my question mark lies at Shidulu. Where is she? I firmly believe she is the new dominant female in Djuma. She's got far more land, more territory than Tlalamba and Tandi, I think. And she was spending a lot of time on Djuma, calling, sawing in the core areas. So as to why we've not seen her in about, it's been quite some time now, I do not know. So she's obviously gone back west, which is where she's originally from. I'm not sure why she's not so active in Djuma anymore. Kara's at the age now where she'll be forced to independence, just like Tlalamba was with Tandi. So Kara's now very much setting up on her own on the west, and Shidulu was pushing into the east, which is Djuma. I just don't know why we're not seeing her. So sorry about the wind, everyone. It's really, really windy. We are on a boundary line, and we're going to cut into Djuma really soon. Andy's back in Torchwood again. So Juma's quite vacant for female leopards. If Shirulu's not careful, it could easily get snapped up. If territory's not marked, if it's not fresh, if it's not freshly scented, if there's not any fresh feces or urine,
so we're still scanning it, and I think Lauren was saying what, I've just seen the coolest thing here. Have a look at this. Lauren was saying what her plan is for the rest of the day. My plan for the rest of the day is to try to figure out the difference in an aardvark and an what's that other thing? A warthog, yeah. But have a look at this beaut. Beaut. I'll stand on the other side. Can you see this nicely? So this little tree is called a grey camel thorn. They actually get a little bit larger. There's some here, and it's a very, very important, it's one of the acacias, or vachelias as they say now, and it's a very, very important food item out in these areas for a lot of your browsing species. But this, and you can see it's very fine leaves, but then you've got this beautiful mistletoe growing on it with these very, very big broad leaves. Yeah, this is so great to see, and it's so thick and fleshy. And there's been a lot of browsing on this as well. So you probably actually find that there's quite a bit of protection afforded to the mistletoe from being embedded in a thorny tree. That's a really bad example, but a lot of them are normally tucked deep inside the acacias. What struck me about this one is that it's actually, you don't see these mistletoes growing on that species of acacia all that frequently. It's normally what we call the blackthorn acacias, camel thorns, those kind of things, but not that much on the grey camel thorn. So that was just out of interest. But David, if you pan across this landscape over here, you'll see the areas that we're really searching for aardwolf and aardvark in. And we're going to actually keep our eyes open for some of these little these snouted termites for you as well, because if you can see the food item that the aardwolf are going for, you'll get a really nice understanding of the ecology of the species and why we're looking for them at these times of day in these particular areas. So every now and again I'll just sort of jump out the vehicle and see if I can find a termite for you, in the absence of something bigger, of course. But it's gorgeous. So yes, a beautiful time of day. Temperature is magical, and I wish you all, yeah, I know you are here, but you know what I mean, like physically here would be great, because then I can actually like walk around. It's the best to be able to walk and show people stuff on the ground. You learn about this stuff through osmosis, so you absorb it through your feet. You don't get it through driving in a car. But anyway, let's see if we can figure out the difference in an aardvark and an aardwolf. Jenna says, wow, it seems to be quite windy. It is a little bit windy. It's not too bad now. The breeze has really settled really nicely. It is actually starting to switch. It was coming literally straight down the road towards us, and it's now slowly swinging in from the south. I know there's a big cold front that's pushing up from Cape Town at the moment. A lot of cold wet weather coming in there. That may reach us. I doubt whether the wet will reach us, but certainly the cold may. But that'll actually play well into our hands in terms of finding these little elusive creatures. It's the termites that are coming out during the day because of the cooler weather, and then the aardwolf and aardvark and pangolins, that's when they alter their behavior to become more diurnally active. But there's always curveballs. You can go read 1,000 books and you'll find an exception to the rule. I promise you. It doesn't matter. Someone says this is only active during the nocturnal or active during the day, whatever. You'll find an animal that'll prove you wrong. Skies asked, do you get sandstorms here? Yes, and yes, absolutely. But also no. This particular area that we're driving in here with such beautiful vegetation cover, grass cover, is a lot less prone to these big sandstorms. There are other areas out on Tswalu with very, very, very little, if any, grass in places. And sometimes we get these massive sandstorms moving through. And a crazy little analogy, think about it like this, just bear with me a second, is when you see a dust storm, you think of dust as being so light, and it is, dust is light, but in mass, in volume, suddenly it becomes a different beast. I always think of those of you who are familiar with a bag of cement, or a bag of cement, your standard bag of cement weighs 50 kilograms, and when you see these dust storms out here, where it is the entire horizon covered in that, and then the way I think is like, how many bags of cement would you need to break open to create a dust cloud like that? The tonnage, the sheer mass of air particles in terms of dust in these dust storms is absolutely staggering. And how that translates, it's not just about, oh, well, that's a huge amount of sand up there or dust, but think of the nutrient shift, the nutrient transfer from one area to the other. We know you get minerals like selenium, which are found in Brazil nuts in South America. That selenium's originating from the Sahara, but it's going up on these jet ones. Those of you who have flown over that way, or you may be flying that way soon, just think when you're up at those altitudes, 36 or 40,000 feet in an aircraft, what is going on up there, and this amazing shift of nutrients from one area, from Africa through to South America. And that's just one example. So I'm going to just scan you on these dunes and find you an art wolf.
It's been a while, everybody, but welcome back to Ambient Pinda. Myself and Craig have been on an absolute roller coaster of a mission over the last hour or so. We managed to find a female cheetah, but couldn't keep up with her as she moved through the thickets on the hunt. And unfortunately we lost her, but luckily our tracking vehicle managed to catch up with the two dominant male cheetah of the southern parts of Ambient Pinda. And there's one of them, enjoying the last rays of the afternoon sun. Look at how pale he is, the very light coat color. And then have a look at his right ear, everybody. Can you see how chewed up it is and how mangled it is? A sign of all the fights that he's been in, fighting for females and for territory. Maybe even a bit of mange as well, possibly. And have a look in the middle of your screen. Look at his belly, how it's kind of rising and falling, but look at how thick his tummy is. And our tracking vehicle was telling us that when they found them, or when they got to them, they were busy devouring, I'm not sure what, but they apparently finished the carcass and moved a short distance before lying down. So this is just one of the two brothers. The other male is concealed in the long grass for now, but we might try to loop around to the other side in just a bit to see if we can get a view of them both together. There he is. And just see that short round head, and then the black spots behind his ears. And very exciting for me, everyone. This is a new coalition of male cheetah that have taken over the territory in this part of the reserve, and it's only the second time that I've seen them. Sandra, you're asking if a cheetah would swap coalitions, as in, I suppose, move from one coalition to another. Sandra, I've never heard of that happening. I have heard of cheetah coalitions merging, or a single male joining another coalition that had already formed, but I've never heard of one cheetah leaving a coalition to join up with another. I suppose hypothetically what could happen is maybe a coalition splits, so maybe it's a very big... Oh, there he's looking at us. Oh my goodness, look at how mean that cheetah looks. My word. Almost got a bit of an eerie look to him, with those bright orange eyes against that very pale skin, or very pale fur. But sorry, I was saying, so perhaps if there's a very big coalition and I haven't heard of this happening in cheetah before. I've heard of it happening with lions, where coalitions have split up and two males go one way and two males go the other way. I suppose hypothetically, if they did split up and then maybe rejoin again at a later stage. But unfortunately, I have not read anything about male cheetah actually swapping coalitions. And where we are right now is the direction in which that female cheetah was heading. And I wonder if she's not maybe on the trail of these two males. Perhaps she's looking to mate, seeking out a mating opportunity, and she'll move around smelling out all the different places where these males have scent marked. And Maria, you're saying great to see the cheetah brothers on Pinda? Absolutely. And like I said, very exciting for me. Like I said, this is a new coalition to this part of the reserve. Only the second time that I'm ever seeing them. So very, very exciting. And I'm hoping that this male does look back at us again. Oh, look at that ear. It's really, really torn up. But as I was saying, wouldn't that be exciting if that female cheetah slowly makes her way in this direction? I don't think it's going to be feasible for her to get here now with the amount of light that's still left in the day. And she was still quite a way away, and there's no telling if she might change direction from the course she was taking. But she is quite she was quite a young female that we saw, and hasn't yet had a litter of cubs of her own. And she is of the age where she'll be looking for a mate, so potentially, if these males do mate with her, it will be their first progeny on this reserve. Okay, apparently there's an aardvark we're going to send you across. I'm not sure where, but let's go see.
Davia spotted an aardvark. Davia's got an aardvark. Look at that in that light. We're just sitting very, very quietly. We're not even going to try approach this animal. But what I'm really interested in is that looks like a fairly young one. That is not a big animal at all. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, my word. Okay, this has just made my afternoon. But I want to point out there, guys, that was not me that spotted that. That was David. But that's what an aardvark looks like, not a warthog. And you're going to see those little birds in attendance. Every now and again, if he stops to start digging, he's going to come out beautifully in the open just now. And we've got a whole lot of ant-eating chats sitting closest to us here. And they're going to start following him. If he starts digging, they'll start following him. Yeah, there's the first bird. It's just gone into a tree behind him there. But we'll keep it on the aardvark. There's one over the aardvark now. Look at that. How's that? Just seeing that little interaction is fantastic. Wow, what a sighting. Dennis says, very cool to see an aardvark. Well done. Thank you, Dennis. All credit to David here. And the wind is perfectly in our favor. So we do not drive off-road for aardvark. So I will not even attempt to try to get closer to this animal. If we had a backpack, sometimes we have a little backpack that you can actually do these little bushwalks, and they work really, really, really well. One day when I'm big, I think they might give me one to use here. But then we can actually walk after aardvark like this, and then you will see sightings that'll blow your mind. But like this, it is fantastic just to be able to observe this animal from a distance and with no disturbance to it. I love that gait, eh? It's so unusual. And so relaxed, eh? There's no hurry there, there's no rush, there's no running away. They can actually gallop. They've got an interesting turn of speed on them. If you ever disturb an aardvark at close quarters, they can run very, very, very fast. And in fact, similar to meerkats, in terms of their knowledge of the environment, if they do bolt, we're just going to keep the camera there in case it pops out there. I'm keeping an eye on it as well. But if they do bolt, if they get frightened, and that could be from a leopard, it could be from a lion, a person, whatever, they know exactly where all the holes are, and they'll run to the nearest one. there are records of them actually digging so fast that people with spades can't even dig them out. I don't know who tries to catch an aardvark these days, but anyway, yeah, they can dig incredibly quickly. But here's the thing: if they go underground, what can catch them? There is one species here that anecdotally, and there's probably good circumstantial evidence for doing it. Can anyone guess what would kill an aardvark underground? I'm not going to give the answer away. Apply your minds and see if you can come up with an answer. He may even have gone down a hole over there. Could be. Ooh, Mike has asked a great question. Are aardvark ears similar to pig ears? They actually are. Maybe not necessarily in the exact design and that kind of stuff, but this is where it gets really, really interesting. There has been a lot of research done on aardvark. Well, no, actually not a lot. There's a bit of research that's been done on aardvark over the years. And in order to study a lot of animals in their natural environment, some people resort to putting tracking collars on an animal. And you can get GPS collars, you can get VHF collars, there's a whole range. And they can make tracking devices to go on insects now. That's how fine the technology is. The challenge is your range and your duration of the batteries. Anyway, long story short, people have actually tried to put collars on aardvark. Not here at Tswalu, but in other areas. There is Outergate. And the problem with that, the skin, because of the sand environment that they're going in, they're always going underground, sand gets underneath that collar and it rubs the skin raw. So researchers will never, ever, ever, ever put a collar on an aardvark. And why that relates to your pig question, if you would put a collar on a pig for that same reason, and I'm talking about a thing that's out like in the wilds, you'll have that same problem on that as well. And that's been shown, that's been done many, many times, and that's why aardvark researchers will not use that as a technique for following an aardvark. Okay, so, yeah. So the answers there were honey badger, meerkat, porcupine, or leopard. A leopard down a burrow would be very unlikely to catch an aardvark. A meerkat would definitely not catch an aardvark. And the correct answer, porcupine, is definitely not the correct answer. Oh, sorry, I had to do that. So the answer there that was right is a honey badger. I've witnessed on multiple occasions honey badgers going down burrows after aardvark. I know for a fact on one occasion I've been present when an aardvark has actually killed not an aardvark, but a honey badger's killed an aardvark down a burrow. And speaking to some of the top people that have worked on honey badgers in the Transfrontier Park, they've said they've never actually physically seen it because you can't get down the burrow to see it, but they've suspected that honey badgers will kill aardvark down the burrow. We've seen it on Tswalu a number of times, them actually actively following and harassing aardvark. So honey badgers will definitely kill an aardvark down a burrow.
Myself and Craig have repositioned ever so slightly, everyone, just to get a different view of the cheetah. So there's that very pale male with the torn ear. And if we just zoom out, you'll be able to see his coalition mate. The other male sitting a little bit closer to us, lying flat, that very, very, very full tummy. He looks like he's fit to burst. My goodness, look at that. Quite different looking to the other male. Look at how dark this cheetah is. That very kind of orangey tinge to his coat. And we were talking about radio collars earlier. You might be able to see that he's wearing a radio collar. He is, like I said, these are new cheetah to the area, and so they've been collared just to monitor their movements as they explore their new territory. Oh, look at his face, everybody, look at that. The gap there in his nose between the tear marks and those scars that run down his face. Again, like we said earlier, just marks of what he's been through as a male cheetah, fighting with other males. See how he stood up and looked over our vehicle, scanning. Mapchick, you're asking if male cheetah within the same coalition will fight with each other for mating rights? Yes, they will. If there's one female that's in estrus, they'll compete with each other for the right to mate with that female. And then that's often where cheetah will get scars like the ones we could see on this male cheetah's face. And they'll make kind of yowling, growling sounds at each other as they fight for the right to mate with that female. See, just busy grooming himself there, licking his chest, licking his shoulders and his paws. Like we said, they did eat something earlier, so there might still be little bits of dried blood in his coat. Let's have a quick closer look at his tongue. See if we can zoom in right onto his tongue while he's busy cleaning himself. Oh, beautiful yawn. Still very busily grooming himself, and it's tough to see because of how fast he's moving his tongue, but we've spoken about it before. On the top of that tongue there's some opaque hooks that make the tongue very rough, and he'll use that to basically comb his fur, comb out any bits of debris or dried blood. Licking his mouth. Oh no, still not done with cleaning his chest. Cleaning his paw. And what may have happened is that when he was feeding on the carcass, he was lying on top of it. HB, you're asking if the cheetah that's darker is the more dominant male in this coalition. HB, funny enough, yes, he is. I don't think it's because of his coloration. If you do see them, it's tough now because they kind of stagger. They're at different distances from us, but this closer one to us is a little bit bigger, and he has been seen to be the slightly more dominant male in this coalition. He also from here looks like he's a little bit fuller, like he got a bit more of the carcass than the other male. I don't know if that's just because we've got a slightly better view of the darker male than we do of that pale one. Look at how he's licking his paw and then wiping his face on his paw, just like a domestic cat will do when it cleans its face. There we go again. Licking his paw, now he might wipe his face again, wipe his nose there, or not. And I got a bit excited, everybody, because when he looked, remember earlier he looked over the vehicle to there's a bit of a plain behind us, and that's exactly the direction that young female cheetah took earlier. So I'm still, that's maybe being a bit overly optimistic, but I'm holding out and hoping that that female does move into this area, that we can get to watch them see her and maybe even go and try to court her. That would be just amazing to see. Look at how alert he is. See, his ears are pricked, looking around. I'm sure you can hear the wind, even though it has died down a little bit, it's still very strong. So there's certainly this cheetah being very vigilant, scanning around while the other one sleeps. Look at that. Hasn't moved from that position since we've got here. So good to see some cheetah at long last. My goodness, we spent the whole morning in a fruitless search trying to find a cheetah. And this afternoon we've managed to, well, show you two, but myself and Craig have been lucky enough to see 3 different cheetah this afternoon. So all of our hard work from this morning certainly paid off now this afternoon. Let's see if he stands up. Oh my word, look at that tummy. Oh my goodness. Stretching a little bit. Oh, look, he looks like he's got a bit of a tender, he's limping just a little bit. Nothing too serious. Might have stepped funny during the chase when they were hunting a little bit earlier, but look at how full that belly is. He literally looks like he's fit to burst. See the other male also now getting up. And like we said earlier, that male, that slightly darker male being the slightly more dominant, it'll often be him that kind of decides it's time to move, and then they'll head off together. Just looks like they're just moving to a slightly more comfortable spot. A little bit further up the slope. That beautiful scene though with cheetah with the sky above them. Very special. TaylorMade, you're asking if cheetah will run slower when they are full. TaylorMade, I would assume that just because of the added kind of weight to their bodies, that yes, it would slow them down a little bit. I don't think they're going to be able to hit top speed when they're full. But if they're having to run away from something, like if they're being chased by a lion or something like that, I'm sure they'll still be able to run fast enough to get away. But just in terms of the added weight, yes, it will affect their speed. I mean, like, look at how fat those tummies are. They look like they've swallowed a beach ball or a balloon. And look at how they're grooming each other now, everyone. And we saw how that one male was licking his paw to clean his face. It helps when you've got a coalition mate to clean the bits of dried blood from the hard to reach places. But what a special afternoon we've had with those rhinos and now with these cheetah. Myself and Craig are going to spend a bit more time here, and we'll try for a slightly better view.
One of my favourite things in the bush is about to happen, and that's watching this big bull giraffe drink. He's only just arrived and he's nervous. He's nervous, as most animals are at water holes, because they're bending down. They are exposed. Anything could come up from behind him. Oh, he's gonna drink, he's gonna drink. No. He will definitely drink. He's just nervous. Once he bends over like that, it leaves him in a very, very difficult position. It would just take a predator to come behind and really ruin it for him. Come on, boy. Here we go. Nope. He's teasing us, everyone. I'm not sure what this game is, but I think we're playing a game. But in all seriousness, to bend down for a giraffe is very complicated. Here we go. Legs spread. Well done. He's going for more. Oh, what a lovely sighting. Loses a lot of water though when he comes back up. And giraffes don't need to drink every day. It's normally only every 2 to 3 days because they're browsers, especially in summer. They get most of their sort of moisture requirements from the browse, from the leaves. So they're normally extremely hydrated. I love that dramatic end to drinking. Vishan, giraffes were thought to be silent for a very long time. They were thought to be silent herbivores, but this is not at all true. If they're really, really alarmed, they can let out a bellow. It's quite a deep sound. But it's recently been discovered that they hum all night long. And it's out with the human hearing range. So the study consisted of, I think it was giraffes in captivities, I'm afraid. But we're going down for more. They use specialized equipment to listen to the giraffes throughout the night. And the sound is said to be described almost like a continuous hum. But obviously, humans cannot hear it, and this is to remain in contact with one another because it's dangerous out here in the wild. They're roughly solitary. They're gregarious. They enjoy spending time with one another, but they don't really form permanent herds, not like elephants. It's a very loose association. Hope off you pop to something exciting.
We've got the dogs. Can you see them there? There we go. We are very lucky. Now, they've just got moving, obviously, from where they were. There's a dead impala over here that I think they killed this morning, and they're now on the hunt again. Let's go forward and have a look. Some of them still coming up from the south. I'm just wondering which ones to go for. Maybe they'll go straight back to that carcass. I think they probably will, you know. Let me just turn around quickly. Yeah, there they are. They're a slightly nervy pack. This is very cool. Now, I think they killed that, I would have said this morning, because most of it was consumed. We'll move towards them now. Well, I don't think this was recent. Unless they were going to fetch, they're going to go towards the clearing here. There we go. HB, these dogs will hunt twice a day because they've got the pups, 10 of them at least. Okay, let's move now. Just need to try and get into a decent position. This is marvelous. We came along here. They were 300 meters south of the boundary, and I was hoping desperately that they might come up later, and they've arrived. Here come more. They're all coming in now. We'll just gently ease our way in here, and there will be great festivities. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Unbelievable stuff. Naturally behind the bush. So I think that's the alpha there with the kill, and he'll probably take it back to the puppies. I know this is a little bit gory, and I apologize, but at least we didn't have to watch them kill like we did yesterday. You might even be able to hear the tawny eagles calling. You hear that rasping? Ha, ha, ha. Just behind the bush, naturally. I'm going to sneak forward slightly. Not sure how long we'll have them, because the pups are obviously still south of the boundary where we're allowed to be. So I don't know if they are going to go back and feed them, or if they'll bring the pups up here. Just going to gently ease my way in this part. I think what these guys will do is eat and then go back to the puppies. There we are, we'll just stop here. Huh. It's not a pack that is as relaxed as some that I've seen. Now they're settling nicely into their meal. I don't know when they killed us. Maybe they killed it earlier, you know. But I don't know why they would have left it. You hear the tawny eagle complaining. It's so angry. So what alerted us to the carcass was the two tawny eagles that flashed off the ground as we drove by. And then I got out the car and I heard that beautiful low bark that they make. And I knew we were in business. Yes, Elizabeth, it is an amazingly lucky day for all of these great sightings. Aardvark, wild dog, cheetah, leopard orchid. I mean, who could ask for more? Especially as these things are not herring around and impossible to look at, which is normally the case with wild dogs. It's normally just an absolute mad, terrifying rush headlong through the bush. And the familiar smell of wild dog has now assailed my nostrils. And if you're not familiar with it, imagine the dirtiest domestic dog you've ever seen in your life. That's what they smell like. It would be nice if they brought the puppies back here, but what normally happens, of course, is that they eat and then they go and regurgitate for the puppies. I wonder if they didn't maybe kill this thing and then go back and feed the pups and come back to finish it off. That might be what they did. Tank, I'm sure there are some physiological differences between domestic dogs and wild dogs because they're not the same species. So in the same way that there are probably physiological differences between leopards and lions. In fact, wild dogs and domestic dogs are more distantly related than leopards and lions. So yeah, I'm sure there probably are. Oh, quickly, let's go to Tswalu for more excitement.
We have a brown hyena. This is absolutely fantastic, and it's actually going to scent mark. I cannot believe it. Again, I'm not going to claim any credit here. This was David that spotted this as well. And just out of interest, that is actually a public road that he's just standing on the edge of a public road there, that concrete road there. It's very, okay, he's actually going to scent mark. Watch this. Look at that. So what he's got there is you probably find that another hyena has pasted over there, done scent pasting over there. And this little guy's now actually gone to have a look and see what it is. What a beautiful animal. Oh my word, that is gorgeous. We are cooking on gas this afternoon. I'm not going to move. I know we got a couple of little plants in the way. I'm just not going to move because he might settle down. And we kind of just over a dune crest from him. Penelope says, oh, what a drive. Totally. There he's just ambling down the road now. Oh, wow, man. And I was hoping for an aardvark. Now we're like, oh, and we also found another aardvark as well, but it was miles away, and we found another aardvark. So there's essentially two aardvark. We got a brown hyena, and in broad daylight, look at that. Oh, yeah, I can't believe the sighting. This is just incredible. Let's see if he actually comes out. He might come out. He may come out over this dune crest. We're going to just wait over here and let's just see if he pops out here. Because if he does, it's going to be unreal. But how exciting is this, everyone? I don't know how many of you have seen brown hyena before in the flesh, but it's not an easy target species. And we have been exceptionally lucky with our brown hyena sightings over the past couple of weeks. You'll recall we've had them drinking at a dam, we've had them on an eland carcass, we've had odds and ends here, and of that insane sighting we had with the leopard and the brown hyena the other day was brilliant. But these are very, very special animals, and they love these arid areas, these semi-arid areas.
We have not moved. The dogs are almost finished their meal, I think. That's the alpha you're looking at there, or was. Sorry, the alpha has just moved past with his collar on. And you can still hear the tawny eagles complaining bitterly. They've both got very full crops though, so they've got nothing to complain about. Right now. There goes the alpha. He's carrying a bit of skin off. I'm not sure what he's going to do with that disgusting piece of carcass. Let me move back slightly, get a better view. So it's a little bit of a mystery to me as to how and when, well, I know how, but when this impala was dispatched. That's nice with the sun behind it. So the wild dogs eat very fast because they don't want to have their food stolen. Now, they're not the most dominant predator out here. That honor, if you call it that, goes to the lion. And they will dispossess wild dogs of food very quickly, as will hyenas. And in fact, I've seen leopards dispossessing wild dogs, but that's a very kind of quick attack. They'll run in, grab something, and take it up a tree. And so they really do have to eat very fast. And then the other reason is that when they're feeding sick or injured members of the pack or puppies, they need to take the food back to them. And so they need to bolt the food as fast as they can and then take it back to the youngsters and regurgitate it for them. I'm eternally grateful that the human species does not feed its young in the same way. I'm going to move slightly forward now, just so that we can get this tree out of the way. There we go, a little bit of a greeting ceremony there. Oh, the colours, especially with that light behind them, is just gorgeous. Yes, Di, as far as I'm aware, this pack is now called the Pungwe pack. They've got the youngsters, they had their den in the Manyeleti near a camp called Pungwe. Just going to see if anybody wants to come to the sighting. Right, let's just see if they move from here. There's too much talk on the radio. We'll just carry on enjoying them ourselves for now. Bit of dominance behaviour going on to the right there. Stations 5, the adults of this pack are now on Rulani, just to the west of Boundary Pan. They're on a carcass here. Right, now there's movement towards the south, where we can't go. We're pretty much on the boundary of where we can be. But what a wonderful sighting we've had, and we'll continue to have until they do actually move. Let me shift these slightly, and we'll get a better view of that one. There we go. And in fact, what I'm going to do is just go even further and see if we can't get a better view of all of them. 2 seem to have gone back towards the south, 1 there eating, and then the other 2 now moving off towards the south as well. Oh, look, we know that one. It's that one that's missing a piece of its jaw, or its top lip. It's gone now. There goes the alpha. We've got 1 left with us. He's just there. Oh, dizzy they are, especially in light like this. Their painted masterpiecery is absolutely amazing. That's a bit of skull. Where you're going with your bit of skull. Back to the puppies. Right, let's see if we can catch up with them. I don't think we're going to see them again, but we might be lucky. Wow! Haha! Got so lucky again today. Just very, very special.
So, welcome back. We have literally just found the lions, and they are not far up ahead from us, It's a little bit tricky to keep up with them. They're moving. So we've spent all afternoon trying to look for them. We haven't had much success, and now right before the sun sets we've managed to get them. So at the moment we're just trying to get round and try and find a spot through here, and then once we have, we will hopefully get a view of them. This is a little bit of a tricky spot. That looks like they might have been following something, possibly wildebeest or a herd of zebra. We're not entirely sure. Just that the trackers followed the tracks from the last position. We'd actually headed in a completely opposite direction, and then from there they changed all the way back and headed in the opposite direction again. I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah, come more west. Towards that people live on your left hand side.
I'm gonna move a little bit back and then see if we might be able to get this gap over here. Usually when we try to go off-road, we try to find the path of least resistance so that we don't have to drive over any plants or any trees. Ooh. So watch out for that one. And what's often the best way to do this is to actually follow the trails that the animals leave. So we're just going to try and see if we can move around and get to where they are. They're at this tree up in front of us.
Unfortunately, those two cheetah we were with gave us the slip, but we have managed to find the most adorable little rhino calf. Look at how small it is. Look at how big its ears are in relation to its body size. That is just too cute. We've had a rhino-filled afternoon, everyone, but this is by far the smallest. Oh, shame, did you see that? The drongo flew down and caught the little insect and it gave the baby a fright. I'm going to keep quiet for a second. Listen to the sounds of the rhinos as they feed. I don't know if you can hear the sounds of those big lips plucking up clumps of grass. Oh, maybe the wind is just a bit too much. But look at how tiny that little calf is there next to its mother. Look at how while mom is busy feeding, it's busy exploring, it's walking around, it's investigating its world. Oh, it nearly tripped there. Very curious. And at this young age, it's still going to be very much dependent on its mother's milk for survival and not really eating very much solid food. So plenty of time for it to play and explore, develop its muscle strength and its coordination. Oh, that is too cute. Rosalind, you're asking how long a rhino calf will stay with its mother. Rosalind, in the case of white rhinos, it'll normally be about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, and then it will move away. If we zoom out, with that little calf moving off to the right, there's a third rhino that's here too. It looks like a sub-adult male, more than likely just moving around with these rhinos for some company. But we were a little bit confused when we first spotted these rhino, everybody, because the calf was not with its mother. It was sticking very close to the sub-adult male. And we were a little bit scratching our heads as to what was going on here. But I think the calf realized its mistake quite quickly and then went to go join up with its mum. See how this young bull is also keeping its distance from the mother and her calf. It's kind of with them, but not imposing itself too much on them. That mother will be quite protective of her youngster. She won't want that young bull accidentally stepping on the little one or bumping the little one around. And I think if that sub-adult male did approach too close, she'd maybe bellow at it or give a deep grunting sound to try and discourage it from coming any closer. But look at how as she walks, watch her carefully now. As she walks, watch how she's swinging her head from side to side. And her body follows where her head goes. As she uses that sense of smell to sniff out the best grass. Cindy, you're saying baby rhinos are so cute. Cindy, they are. They're just the most adorable little things. And perfect little replicas of their mothers. Look at how they're busy looking. So there's a warthog that just ran into the road. It caught their attention. And just the sound of those hooves. Ooh. Something spooked her. And they're all running down the hill. Now, it definitely wasn't us, because we've been sitting with them for quite some time now. I wonder if it wasn't maybe the warthog. They could hear the warthog's hooves on the tar, or on the gravel road, rather. They could hear the sound. The wind is blowing kind of perpendicular to where... It's not blowing from the warthog to them, so they won't be able to smell it. And of course, at that distance, probably not be able to see it too well either. And perhaps just that sound made them a little bit uneasy. They weren't sure what was causing it. And so that mother decided with that small calf, better to let them move out of the area and keep it safe. And it's quite a dense thicket down there, so I wouldn't be surprised if that mother rhino is going to take her calf down into those thickets for the chilly night to keep warm for the evening. How special was that?
So we are still hoping for Aardwolf. We've still got time. The temperature is perfect now. We've had 2 aardvark this afternoon. We've had brown hyena, which was exceptionally good. So I'm holding thumbs that we are still going to get something else. And it's just for me, this is like I'm on the edge of my seat here now. That like this excitement of I'm not on my seat. I know. For those of you who wanted to point that out, but you like on the edge here because it's the time is good. The area that you're driving is right now. You just need to find the animal. But we'll get it. Just be patient. Sassy Cathy has asked, how many brown hyenas are on Tswalu? We have no idea. But it's a good population. And also, these reserves are actually fairly permeable. and you can get things like aardvark burrowing under fences and warthogs going through, and brown hyenas go in and out as well. And we are very, very lucky that the communities in these areas are pretty tolerant of things like cheetah, brown hyena, those kind of things, just because they are not known. Those areas, the surrounding areas, are primarily cattle farms and a lot of game as well, wildlife, and because of that they're actually fairly tolerant of a lot of these predators, where in some areas they're not. So the brown hyena population out here is pretty stable, I'd say, but we don't know what numbers are. We've actually
So we have finally caught up with him. Just have a look at that little face. And there's his sister. Interestingly enough, they were all moving now, and then most of them went straight flat down. You can see some of the larger adults couldn't care less. Well, there's a very serious game going on there. If we're very lucky, we might even see a lion climb a tree. Got some bark in his mouth. That little one with his tail up, that's the young male. If you have a look at the tip of that tail, you can see it looks like it's almost like stripes. And a white dot, actually, on the underside. 3 white dots. Jenna, it is certainly cuteness overload. Just look at that. Have a look at how they're playing. Specifically where they bite when they play, how they grab each other. You see the one brings in her back paws as soon as she's got hold of the young male's face. And then once it's too much, he'll break and he'll bite something else, and then he might even take a different angle. Occasionally, once they hit that skin on the body, they might bite very hard like that. The future of this pride's hunting is being determined right here in front of us at the moment. They look like their fur is quite long, so every now and again when they give each other a bite, it's almost afterwards I see they're cleaning their tongue. Thomas, at the moment, these cubs, it's difficult to say exactly how old they are, but we suspect that they're about 4 months old at this stage. And, wow. And at 4 months old, they start climbing trees, like that little guy there. So let's have a look and see. He's probably going to fall out. I bet you can see he's trying to struggle to shift his weight around there a little bit and trying to get grip at the same time. And the other young one's not even worrying at all anymore. Ooh! Looked like he hit his head. You can see he's trying to keep his composure. I think he's taking... Ooh, he got a fright from the sneeze. It sounded like the male sneezing. You can see some of the other members are also starting to move around more. So I think what we saw earlier was the males moving this way, because they were moving around. The one male is... we can't see him at the moment. He's off to the back of us, and then the young male is laying flat down. That's quite interesting. Have a look. That's the young white female. She's also chewing the bark where the other one was. That young one's getting a good bite of the spine. I imagine she was a little bit larger, and the white one was a zebra or something else. All of those bites are strategically placed on the shoulder. Often when lions do attack, they do jump on the back of certain animals, where they'll try to hold on and then try and bite the spine. Now I have to say, I know that the white lions are world famous at this point, and it is a rarity, but at the moment I can't help but thinking, in my opinion, these two small little ones are certainly stealing the show. It looks like that little one's actually, I don't know if she's playing with something behind, or maybe she was licking on the larger lioness. Now the reason for their movement from their spot where they were this morning is a bit unclear. It could be one of various reasons. Maybe they just moved because they were too much out in the open and it was too hot. They looked for more shade, although the spot isn't much better. So I am thinking that maybe they were looking for something to hunt. Sinek, they certainly play, or playing is certainly one of the favorite things for myself to watch when I watch lions, and I agree, I love how they're playing as well. It's interesting though, that young female, she is often the first to move over towards these two young cubs and start playing with them, which I find very, very interesting. When she and her sister was born, they were quite a lot younger than the rest of these young lions in this pride at the moment. Almost a full 6 months. There's always a bit of intrigue for the little ones from the larger lions, and often what we see is they play a little bit rough, where I think that one, she's seemed to have found the balance between managing her strength and not hurting these little ones. Ooh. And the young male, he's always the test dummy. Probably going to try grab an ear there as well. You can see he's really tucking into his newly grown mane there. Now he's going to have a mouthful of fur. Tandem, that cub is definitely practicing a buffalo takedown. If you have a look now, it's trying to go for the jugular. I think it might be succeeding. Ooh, and I think it succeeded. Ooh, you can see the young male's also lifting his lips. He's starting to respond and play with. He's also yawning a bit. I think he's just been woken up.
Guys, we've got another artvark. Sorry, just give us a second here. I'm just going to go there. David, can you see it? That's a trotting artvark. Watch him going there. So I think maybe that could have been wind from us. Let's see, there he's settling down. There he's nice and settled down. Let's just keep it there. a little bit. There we go. So unfortunately, the wind is not in our favor. Literally, the wind is blowing straight from us to that aardvark. You might come out in the open there. Sorry, he's but that is 3 aardvark in one afternoon. Let's just see if he comes out there. Hold on. No, this is a totally different aardvark. These are all 3 of our sightings have been like very far apart. But I'm going to try inch forward here and just see. I mean, we've got nothing to lose. So David, just keep watching there. It's just, okay, there he's going in the distance. I'm not, we're going straight. I'm just going to stop here now. Yeah, the wind is blowing straight from us to him. Sorry. My goodness. He is not even gonna, we're not even gonna attempt to even get kind of close to him. We just carry on straight down here. But it just shows you how sensitive they are to wind conditions, and that's why I've been working with the wind. Unfortunately, I got to a point where I needed to turn around. It was actually the brown hyena's fault. He's moving, going to come out into frame now on the left-hand side there, I think. But it just shows you that's why it's so important to be able to use the wind, get the wind in your favor. If you can do that, he's gone out to the left. He's going out left. There we go. There he goes. Jeez. How crazy is that? Gemma, what a champion. 3 more than you've seen in the wild. And that really makes me happy because they are incredibly settling down nicely up. They are incredibly special animals. And very few people ever actually get to see an aardvark. And it may surprise you, but even people that work on reserves, like general staff, guides are actually really spoiled. I promise you. In fact, every single time we go out, we're incredibly spoiled and privileged with the things that we see. You can never take a sighting like this for granted. If you ever do, then you need to hang your shoes up and go, I don't know, just do something with your life, because to see something like this, even at that distance, is just incredibly special. See the little birds in attendance the whole time, eh? They don't let up on those aardvark. There's a lot of bird and mammal associations, tons and tons and tons of them. Where our colleagues are working down at Pinde, you get a beautiful bird, they're called an eastern nikita, and you'll often get them sitting on things like a nyala, because as an antelope move, they're flicking up little or disturbing little insects, and these nikitas go for them, and you get carmine beaters that sit on elephants and curry bustards and all sorts of crazy things. Oh man, what an afternoon! And still, I have let you all down because I still need to get a aardwolf at some point. I am not complaining about aardvark sightings, that I can promise you now. But it will be really good to actually be able to find an aardwolf for you as well. But we will. I just need some time. 11 weeks is too short. What was that?
Something about porcupine from Dizzy, I'm not sure what.
So Dizzy, sorry, what was the question there, please? I missed that. I'm sorry. Porcupine with its day off.
No, would top the day off.
Oh, sorry. My hearing is shot. My hearing is so bad. I'm really sorry. Yeah, a porcupine would top the day off. It really would. Yeah. So let's go find a porcupine. Come on. Let's do this. Yeah, my goodness. I butcher people's names. I get the questions wrong. So just enjoy it. With whatever I answer, just go with the flow and just kind of like write it off.
I'm just repositioning. The lions have just got up and they're moving off in the direction there behind these two little ones, but just want to show you there is one massive little fight going on. A massive little fight going on at the moment. Now we've got the infrared light on, and you can see these little two are playing around with each other. Now the others is not far. If you look carefully, you might be able to see, I don't know if you'll be able to see the father at the moment. The one of the big males just walked straight past them without even paying attention. He didn't even look at these two little ones. You can see now they're following. How amazing is that? Two little guys going on as if nothing's happening. In the meantime, the rest of them they seem to have moved off in quite a quick manner. Like, I don't know if they've picked up on something in the wind. I do know that there are some clearings around that side, and I do think that maybe what we should be doing is we should move around to see if we can get lucky and get one more view of them. Usually this time of the evening it's quite tricky to see these lions in the low light condition, but as that's happening and it's getting darker and darker, their eyesight is improving. They'll be able to extinguish any movement, any shape at this point in the distance. There we go. There's one of the big males over there, off to our left. And as we can see, he is trying to pick up on the scent of the others. I think he's moved a little bit slowly and maybe lost them as well.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
And you'll never guess what we found. More white rhinos, everyone. It's been a white rhino filled afternoon. Another hanger on mother recently and has just been seeking out some company. I think just with today having been so windy, the rhinos have all been, like we saw earlier, resting in thickets. And have a look. Rhinos, I think now that the wind has died down somewhat, they're all coming out.
Don't know what happened there. Sorry about that, everyone. We've come back onto the clearings next to camp, and we are, well, hoping for some sort of nocturnal creature to make itself known to us. So far, not much since those magnificent hounds. It was great. I found a Simbambili guide on our way out, and she said that they had been sitting with the puppies for a long time, most of the afternoon, and that they had found a big termite mound, and they were investigating it and going in and out of the holes and that sort of thing. And so, you know, I think those dogs, the pups are quite big to be in a den still, but they may still use a termite mound as a base for a while. So, with any luck, they'll hang around. Unfortunately, that termite mound is on Arathusa, where we don't go, but very close to the Simbambili border where we found the kill today. So, with any luck, they'll be around on Djuma or Simbambili for the foreseeable future. I can smell different suppers coming from the lovely camps around Djuma.
Yes. We just had what I'm pretty sure was an Aardwolf walk across the road in front of us. Oh man, this was about as close as I could ever get to it without actually showing you one, man. Oh no. It literally walked about 30 meters. Okay, we were far back, but 30 meters from where we parked here, walked from left-hand side to the right and into this thicket over here. Okay, anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. Have an amazing evening. Fantastic having you. Catch you on the morning drive. Cheerio.